Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Well, last weekend I got the chance to shoot a wedding, which is something that I haven't done for years. It was a last minute job, someone looking for an associate wedding photographer, and I jumped on and said, hey look, I'd be willing to give it a go, and off I went. But that's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the lens and the camera that I used to shoot this entire ceremony and portraits afterwards, and that is the Lumix S5iiX and the Samyang 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8. Okay, so why this camera and this lens? Now, I've got to say I have been trying out this camera and lens combination, shooting some portraits since I've got the lens, which was about a month ago, and I've been pretty impressed. But I wouldn't say that I love it for portraits, just simply because of the size and the weight of it. I've really moved more recently to shooting with lighter setups like the S9 or the S5iiX, or just shooting my R6 Mark II, but with prime lenses. And I just find that makes me more nimble. But when it came to shooting a wedding ceremony, I realized I didn't want to fumble around using two different camera bodies. What I really wanted was a one and done solution, and that's where this comes in. So if you're into wedding photography or anything like that, you'll probably know of this lens, and also the Tamron version, which is pretty much very similar or almost the same lens. And this has been covered a lot by people in the wedding industry, especially by Taylor Jackson. And the Tamron version is available, I believe, for the Sony and for Nikon. Whereas the Samyang version is available for Sony and L-mount Lumix, I believe. Okay, so I saw this lens recently come up about a month ago on sale, and this is the type of lens I've always wanted to try out, but hasn't been available on the RF mount. Okay, so I've been shooting with the R6 Mark II for about two and a half, nearly 3 years now. And this sort of style of lens hasn't been available. Now you do have options like the 28 to 70 f2, which I think is a great lens. But when you're shooting a ceremony, the ability to go quickly from a tight close-up to a mid shot, and then also have the versatility to do a wide and a group shot without having to switch to a different camera body, switch to a different lens, is just really, it can't be beat. Now another thing I want to talk about is I was shooting on a beach. Now that is not the best situation to be changing lenses in, especially with something like the S5iiX, where it doesn't have that shutter protection. But with having this lens on, I literally don't have to worry about it. I just shoot the one lens the whole ceremony, and that was it. And I will say that I did shoot this lens for the entire ceremony and entirely for family portraits. Now it was only a 2-hour shoot, so there was no getting ready shots or dance floor shots or anything like that. Now in that sort of a situation, I might need to change this lens, particularly for reception shots, dance hall stuff. I don't know that 35 would necessarily be wide enough. I might want something like a 24 or even wider for that. But for what I did on the day, this lens did everything. I mean everything. Now let's talk about the quality of the image coming from this combination. I'll say that the S5 II is a great camera and the autofocus is very good. I don't believe that it's as good as Canon autofocus. That's what I can compare it to right now. I haven't shot with Sony, I haven't shot with Nikon recently on their newer bodies, so I can't compare it to that. But I will say that it is not as fast and snappy as the R6 Mark II, but it did 100% get the job done. I I was a little nervous. Obviously, it's a big job. It's someone's wedding day. There's a lot of pressure there. But when I got the shots back, I would have to say I probably had a 90 to 95% hit rate. Now I was shooting outdoors, mainly in very good light. So I wouldn't expect the autofocus to struggle, but I had absolutely no problems whatsoever. And in that sort of situation too, I'm not usually going for very, very shallow depth of field. I'm trying to make sure most of these shots are going to be 2 people or more. So I'm usually shooting a little bit stop down anyway, but even at f2.8, the shots came out fantastic. So would I recommend this combination? I would. I really like the files coming out of the Lumix cameras. I wish the autofocus was just a little bit better, but it's hard to complain when it's this good. I think I've just been spoilt from shooting with the newer Canon bodies where it's just so quick and so accurate. But it's almost hard to miss a shot with the new Canon autofocus system. But this is perfectly acceptable to shoot weddings and events. And yeah, especially with a combination with a lens like this. So going forward, am I going to continue using this combination? I think I am. I think for weddings, unless it's a situation where it's extremely low light, where I need to use like a primes with a 1.4 aperture, where I'm really needing the light and I need that autofocus accuracy with very, very shallow depth of fields, I think that I would stick with something like this. I think it's just so much more versatile, and there's less to think about. Now I know, look, if you're an experienced wedding photographer and you're used to using 2 bodies and all that, more power to you. But I don't like complicating things, because especially in situations that are high pressure, I think the more things that can go wrong, the more chance that something will go wrong. So I did have the S9 in my bag as a backup camera. I only needed to use it once. Now, there is an issue with this lens and body combination where if you shoot in high-speed burst mode, there's a possibility that you get an error message. Now, I only had it happen once. That was enough for me, and to resolve it, you need to pop the battery out and put the battery back in. When that happened, I just put the camera back in my bag, pulled out the S9, kept shooting, and then just waited for a pause and then popped the battery, put it back in, and it was all good. I didn't encounter that problem when I was shooting in a medium speed burst mode on the camera. One thing that's great about this camera is all the buttons and dials that you have, all the manual controls that you have, which I much prefer to the R6 Mark II. Just having dedicated buttons for ISO, white balance, for all your different shutter modes, it really does make a difference. And it's sort of that toss up between the speed and the accuracy of the R6 Mark II and a camera like this, where I don't know, it is more usable. It feels a little bit slower when you're using it, but you have more control over the camera itself without having to go into menus and things like that. So I just wanted to make this video because if you're thinking about doing this combination, now when I was looking into this lens, there was an Australian photographer who works in Bali, and he was talking about this combination using the S5 II and this lens for shooting weddings, which is something that I hadn't considered. So, you know, I'm sure there's other people that shoot weddings with Lumix cameras, like the S5 II or the newer S1 IIs. But usually when I bought this camera, I bought it for video. I mean, I just did. But I am really enjoying the files, especially. I find they've got great dynamic range, if I can talk, and there's just a richness to them that I don't get out of the Canon files. Now, I like the Canon files in certain types of light, but I just find that the Lumix files, they're just thicker, if I can say that, and there's just more to work with there. I find when I color grade them, I can do a bit more to them. I can massage them a bit more to the style that I want. Now that might just be my skill level. Maybe, you know, I'm sure a professional colorist could do the same thing with Canon files or any camera's files, okay? But I'm just saying, for me, this is my personal experience. So if you've shot weddings with the S5 II or a variant of this 35 to 150 lens, I value your comments down below. I'm looking at getting into shooting more weddings, so I need to think about my options of whether I invest in another S5 II. I probably wouldn't get another S5iiX, but maybe another S5 II body, so that I can have something like the 28 to 70 Sigma, which is a very nice small lens. I had that on the S9 in the bag, and it was almost like not having something else in the bag because it's so light and compact. But I would sort of prefer to have another full-sized camera with all the controls and stuff on it that I need, just in case there was some sort of total camera failure, which I'm sure there wouldn't be, but you know, you always think about these things when you're shooting these situations like a wedding. So that's my experiences, guys. If you could, please let me know if you got any value out of this video, and if you've got any experiences that you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one.